Hey everyone, it's Desiree, and I have episode 3, I believe, of our Simplicity series. So these are the 2 paper pads that we're going to be working with. Yes, I get them from Michael's. They were released this year. I think I got them back in November. So let's take a look at them. So the first one is called Ice Crystals. There are some great color choices. The second one is called Shimmer Noel. So the first one has shades of light blue, white, like a taupe or light brown, basic color, some grays, and silvers, silver foils going through it. But you can just see as I'm paging through this, I'm getting some great ideas. There's some wood finishes here. That piece there, you could actually make a 6x6 card. It doesn't have to be the standard top folding 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, or the side folding. You can make your cards any size you want. I've made 3x3s, 3 1/2 by 3 1/2, 4x4s. I have made some 6x6s. You've seen some 5x7s. This one here has more of a goldish, a golden yellow type feel to it, but with some silver glitters and grays mixed in. And that's what makes these 2 work together. So we're going to combine these 2 paper pads together to create our card. So again, even though you have 2 separate paper pads, it doesn't mean you can't cross-contaminate. What I like to say. Again, colors do work together. It depends upon their color feel. Are they warm shades of that color? Are they cool shades of that color? As long as you can see that. And it takes time. It took me a lot of time to do that. So I'll try to keep explaining that as we go through. Because your eyes will not fail you. They will tell you what doesn't look right, what does look right, and also what your inspiration is. Anything can be created. So these are the cardstocks that I chose. I also pulled in 2 of the gold banners from one of those Stampin' Up! The October Stampin' Up! Kit. We're going to use the top folding 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, scissors, art glitter glue, and yes, we are going to use those 2 shapes. We don't need dies. So this one I like to call Shapes and Tears. That's what this episode is going to be called this time. So I'm going to be cutting out, I want that sentiment that says glisten. If you haven't figured this out, I like to go for the different sentiments. I do like the traditional ones, but just to go for something different. Now I have 2 separate scissors. So I have the short ones, the small ones, my cutter bee scissors, which I absolutely love. Husband's not allowed to touch them. But then I do have a pair of the long shears by Tim Holtz. I also have a regular pair of long shears. When you have a long scissor, it will help you to make a straight cut. Just take your time and cut through it, and you will get a straight edge to it. You may not get that with a shorter pair. So just, keep that in mind. You can also see I cut out 2 of those banners. I kept them together. And here's how we're going to create our shapes. So I'm going to use these 3. So now I've crossed over into the other paper pad. So this is the insert of glue dots. You could also use a ribbon holder. You can use the bottom of a jar. Anything that will give you a circle and the size that you're looking for. I do really like the inserts, and I keep them. I have a whole box filled with them from the glue dots or spools and stuff like that. So I'm going to go to the back side of the cardstock, and we want to draw around this. And again, this is really thick. It's almost a quarter, between 1/8 and 1/4 of an inch thick. So I'm going to get 2 different sides just by drawing and tracing on the inside and tracing on the outside. And now I'm going to cut. Now here's where you can use your smaller size scissors, but watch what I'm doing. My scissors are not moving. It's the paper that's moving. Do long slow cuts and you won't get choppiness. You may get some. Nobody is perfect when they cut. But we really don't need, I mean, we have to have them. Let's face it. We have to have dies. But if you don't have them, because they are expensive, you can use items around the home. So here, again, I'm moving the paper. I'm not moving the scissors. And it looks just like a circle. I mean, there's no shame in that. You can get some great shapes just by using a pair of scissors and paper. Now, since I have a second one, I'm going to bend this. I just flew across the room. But I'm going to bend this. So I'm just going to pinch it in. This took some work. This was tough to bend. Makes a great egg shape. So hold on to this for Easter. Oh, absolutely. But I should have probably pushed it in just a little bit, but I'm okay with that. It's giving me the basic shape of what I want. So I'm going to draw around the outer portion of this, and then I'm going to cut that out. Again, moving the paper, not the scissors. So now we have our poinsettia egg. Let's go with that. But we have our 3 different shapes using one item that 9 out of 10 we have. We may not have the center of the glue dots, but I'm sure we've got something in our home, whether it's a jar, a glass, a bowl, Tupperware, anything that can give us that circle. So I'm going to fold these gold pieces in half. Why I fishtailed the other side, I have no idea, and we're not going to see it, but you know what? Let's go with it. So that's going to be our toppers. So yes, we are making ornaments out of our paper. Again, not pulling in any dies. You could pull in some of your inks that you have. I'm sure we all have inks, just to distress around the outer portion of it to make them stand out. But again, you don't have to. You can just let the paper speak for itself. So I'm going to continue, and I'm going to put the toppers on all 3 of them. Of course, the last 2 didn't bother fishtailing the other side because, again, we're not going to see it. It's going to be on the underside of the ornaments. So bringing in the 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 top folding card base, and again, this is my Nina Solar White 80 pound. I'm going to position my pieces. I want to look at where everything, what's going to catch my eye, what's going to work well when it comes to this. So you can see I took the egg-shaped ornament and I off-centered that onto the left. And then I have the larger one coming down a little bit, and then I put the middle size, the smaller circle, on the other part. So once they're in place, I'm just putting small little tiny marks at the top, because that's where the center point of those ornament toppers are. Maybe we don't have a ruler. Maybe we just don't have that straight edge. You can use a piece of paper for that, believe it or not. You want to make sure that it's straight, just put it right up to your fold line, because your fold line is going to be straight. The edge of this paper is straight. This is not an edge that I cut. So you could actually use this to form the straight lines coming down for the ornaments. Do you have to use a straight edge? No. And you can see it, you didn't get any black ink on the paper, so that you can still save it, because I save every piece of scrap. But also, no, you don't need to have a straight edge. You could do wiggly lines. Again, they're strings. Strings are not straight unless there's a lot of weight pulling at them. So again, you don't have to let that preciseness go. It took me forever to let it go. I'm very honest with you. So I glued down the egg ornament, glued that flat onto the card base. I'm going to pop up the other 2. Now here's what I want to show you. Maybe we don't have foam squares, but we want to add dimension to our cards. Just take some of your scraps. They can be patterned. They can be white. I use the top of the pattern paper. We don't use it, although I find ways to use it. Cut them up. You can make them the same size if you want, but again, nobody sees the underneath. And just glue them on top of each other. Just remember, if you're going to use multiples, remember the number of the paper that you use so that you have the same thickness. But this too will give you thickness and give you dimension. So maybe you've got tons of scraps and you just don't know what to do with them, but you just can't throw them away. I'm guilty. This is what you could use them for. Just glue them together. I'm going to use this. No, it's not the same height as my foam squares, but you know what? That center point, it's not going to cave in. It's going to keep its shape. So just a little tip there. If you don't have foam squares, you don't want to buy them, or even if you run out, you have a way that we can create them. Yes, I had to buy a roll of 3M Scotch foam tape. I love my Scotch foam tape. So I'm going to prop up the bottom banner. So you can see we have our ornaments in place. We're going to set our bottom banner in place along. And again, I'm showing a little bit of the bottom of the card base because I don't have a card panel that I'm working on. I'm working right onto the card base. I'm going to take a small piece of a foam square and I'm going to put that in the center of our sentiment that we're using, which is glisten. And then I'm going to put glue on the other two corners because it's just going to hang. It's going to touch those other two ornaments. This starts flying around because they're really sticky. Almost lost it. It was kind of funny. And we're just going to position that right in between the ornaments. Maybe hiding a little bit that it's an egg shape, but I still think it's cute. I'm going to use my long shears because I can do that one straight cut along the edge of the card. Let the card be your guide. It will guide you as to where to cut so that you can cut off the edges. I always like things to run off my cards. And that's the first card. Now, while I was flipping through the paper pads and showing you guys, this one, if you noticed, my finger kept on tapping on it. I just came up with an idea. Guys, you know I love to tear paper. I am a distresser. I create junk journals, so I tear paper all throughout my junk journals. But here's what I want to show you. So here's a scrap piece. If you take your right hand and tear towards you, the piece in your right hand will not have the white edge. So whichever hand you are pulling towards you when you tear paper, you will not have the white edge. The hand that stays stationary, that doesn't move, that's not tearing the paper, that will have the white edge. Sometimes you want the white edge, sometimes you don't, or at least I don't. Yes, there I have a methodology when it comes to tearing paper. So I'm going to tear this. Now my first thought was I didn't want the white edge. So I'm actually going to tear along these snowflakes. Let your fingers be the guide to create that tear line. It can be precise. It can be what you want it to look like. So you can see the top portion, because I was tearing towards me, does not have the white edge, but the other piece does. Change of mind here. I kind of like the white edge. So see how my left thumb is kind of guiding where I want it to tear by putting that pressure, and my fingers underneath are manipulating it. So here's where I change my mind. Again, I'm tearing towards me, so I need to flip the piece so I can get that white edge, not realizing that I was going off camera. I changed my setup, so I've got to get used to the new setup. So sorry. So tearing paper can absolutely be beautiful. I love it. I wish I would put it in every single one of my designs if I could. I just love the effect. I love the look. Whether you distress it with vintage photo, distressed ink or not, or any other color ink, it doesn't matter. I just love the texture that it gives. But I do want that blue to be the panel. So how do we cut that panel? No wonky die. Set your card base up, get your long shears, snip into that piece, and go straight up. Again, long shears, you can use the paper's edge to give you that straight edge. But this doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. Again, because I lined up my card base And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to bring in my scissors. I'm going to snip where I want it to give me the edge, the 1/8 border edge that's going around it, and I'm going to go straight across it in one swipe. Again, it does not have to be perfect, but I have to admit I got pretty good on that. I'm pretty amazed with myself. So now we're going to put these two pieces up onto this panel. So I'm going to use my glue, my art glitter glue, to adhere this flat down. Now I could have propped this up. I want the other pieces to be propped. So this I want to be adhered flat onto the card base. And then we're going to use tons of foam tape to attach these. But first I'm distressing them. So you can play with it as I am. You can also use scissors. Be careful and just scrape along. Yes, I do have the Tim Holtz distressing tool, but you can use a pair of scissors. Please be careful with this. Ask me how I know. Yes, many times. You'd never learn. At least I don't. But you can use, and again, that could also be on a straight edge. You don't have to tear the paper. You can get that same effect. So lots of foam squares. I know I could have used my foam tape. I was on a roll here. And now I'm just going to position this in place. So we've got our snowflakes at the top, and we've got our Merry and Bright coming down onto the bottom. And then we have our center point. If we were using sequins, we could put sequins all through there. We could color that with a Spectrum Noir glitter pen. We could do a lot when it comes to all the extras that we do have. But again, this is the simplicity. Using 2 paper pads, merging the 2 papers together, using things that we have in our house to create our shapes. We can also tear the paper. So this is a close-up of the cards. I hope you liked this video. If you did, hit the thumbs up. This series will be continuing. I want to thank you so much. As I am editing this, we together have reached 3,000. I cannot say thank you enough. And I will find a way to say thank you. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, please do so. Leave a comment down below. And remember, guys, be creative with everything that you have in your room.